My mother looked at my sister's $1 million house, smiled at me, and said, "Be realistic, Claire. People like you don't own homes like this." My father agreed, and my sister laughed as everyone treated me like the family failure. They saw my old clothes, my quiet life, and my small apartment, and they assumed they knew my story. What they didn't know was that behind closed doors, I was building something they never imagined. I stayed silent because I wanted the truth to speak for itself. And when my sister finally walked into my home, her smile disappeared. My name is Claire Morgan, and I'm 35 years old. For most of my life, I felt like I was standing in the shadow of my older sister, Vanessa. In my family, she was always the one everyone admired, the successful one, the impressive one, the daughter my parents proudly talked about whenever relatives came over. Vanessa had a beautiful career, a wealthy husband, and recently, she bought a massive luxury home in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in town. My parents couldn't stop talking about it. The day of her housewarming party, I arrived with a small gift in my hands and a genuine smile on my face. I wasn't there to compete. I was there because she was my sister, and despite everything, I wanted to support her. But the moment I stepped inside, I knew this wasn't going to be just a celebration. My mother looked around at the expensive furniture, the huge kitchen, and the designer decorations before turning toward me with a laugh. "Claire, be honest," she said. "Do you really think you'll ever own a home like Vanessa's?" A few people went quiet. I forced a smile, hoping she was joking. But my father simply nodded. "She's right," he said. "Vanessa worked hard and made smart choices. You've always been too comfortable staying where you are." Then Vanessa crossed her arms and gave me that familiar little smile. "You're not upset, are you?" she asked. "I mean, not everyone is meant to have this kind of lifestyle." Those words hurt more than I wanted to admit. What they didn't know was that while they were judging my life from the outside, I had been quietly building something they could never imagine. For years, I had worked as a home renovation contractor, turning old, forgotten houses into beautiful homes. I saved carefully, avoided unnecessary spending, and invested in my future instead of showing off. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I simply smiled and said, "Vanessa, you should come over for tea next Saturday." She laughed, thinking it was just a polite invitation. But she had no idea that 1 week later, everything she believed about me was about to change. What Vanessa didn't know was that the life she thought I was living was only the part one allowed people to see. For the past 2 years, while everyone assumed I was simply working, paying rent, and struggling to keep up, I had been working on a secret project of my own. A few months earlier, I purchased an old abandoned house on the edge of town. Most people who saw it thought I had made a terrible mistake. The paint was peeling. The backyard was overgrown. The kitchen looked like it hadn't been updated in decades. The floors creaked, the walls needed repair, and the house had been sitting empty for years. But I didn't see a broken house. I saw potential. As a home renovation contractor, I knew exactly what it could become. I spent my evenings after work restoring every corner. I replaced old flooring, rebuilt the kitchen, repaired the walls, redesigned the lighting, and transformed forgotten spaces into something beautiful. I didn't hire expensive designers. I didn't take out a massive loan. I used my skills, my savings, and the knowledge I had gained from years of renovating other people's homes. Slowly, the abandoned property became a place I was proud to call mine. There was a custom kitchen with handmade cabinets, a cozy living room with restored hardwood floors, a beautiful garden in the backyard, and a peaceful office where I could run my business. It wasn't just a house. It was proof that quiet hard work could create something extraordinary. I kept it private because I knew my family. If I told them too early, they would have questioned my choices, criticized the location, or compared it to Vanessa's expensive mansion. I didn't need their approval while I was building my dream. I only wanted them to see the finished result. So when Saturday arrived, I prepared tea, cleaned the house, and waited. At exactly 2 p.m., Vanessa's car pulled into my driveway. She stepped out, looked around, and immediately frowned. For a moment, she seemed confused. Then she looked at the address again. "This can't be right," she whispered. I opened the front door, smiled, and said, "Vanessa, welcome to my home." Her expression changed instantly. She walked inside slowly, looking at every detail. Then she pulled out her phone. "Mom," she said quietly, "you need to get here now." Less than 20 minutes later, my parents' car pulled up outside my driveway. I watched through the window as my mother stepped out first, followed by my father. Vanessa was standing beside them with a strange expression on her face. She wasn't smiling anymore. The confidence she had when she walked into my old apartment was gone. My mother looked at the house, then looked back at me. "Claire," she said, "where did you get this place?" I could hear the suspicion in her voice. Not excitement, not pride, suspicion. Before I could answer, my father shook his head. "This doesn't make sense," he said. "A house like this costs a fortune." Vanessa immediately jumped in. "I knew it," she said. "There's something she's not telling us." I looked at my sister and realized something. Even standing in front of my dream home, she still couldn't believe I had achieved something without her knowing. I simply smiled. "Come inside. I'll show you." I walked them through every room. I showed them the kitchen I rebuilt from scratch, the floors I restored, the walls I repaired, the backyard I transformed from an overgrown mess into a beautiful garden. Then I opened a cabinet where I kept a collection of photographs, before and after pictures, the old broken house, the damaged rooms, the unfinished spaces, and then the final results. My father picked up the photos one by one. "You did all this?" I nodded. "Most of it." My mother looked around quietly. For the first time, she wasn't comparing me to Vanessa. She was actually seeing me. Then I reached into a folder and placed the purchase documents on the table. "This is the part nobody believed," I said. "The house wasn't a gift. It wasn't from a wealthy boyfriend. It wasn't from some secret inheritance. I bought it myself. I had purchased the property when it was considered worthless, then increased its value through years of hard work and careful planning." Vanessa picked up the documents and read them silently. Her face changed as she reached the final page, because she finally understood. The house she laughed at me for never owning was now worth more than the luxury home she spent years showing off. For the first time in my life, my sister had nothing to say. For a few moments, nobody spoke. The same people who once laughed at my dreams were now standing inside something I had built with my own hands. My father slowly placed the documents back on the table. "Claire, I think we owe you an apology," he finally said. Those words surprised me more than anything else that happened that day. My father had always been a man who believed success had to be loud. Expensive cars, large houses, impressive titles. He never noticed the quiet effort behind the scenes. "I judged you too quickly," he admitted. "I thought because you weren't showing off, you weren't moving forward." My mother looked down at the floor. "I shouldn't have compared you to Vanessa all these years," she said softly. That was the apology I had waited for. Not because I needed them to admit I was successful, but because I wanted them to understand how their words had affected me. Vanessa stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, she looked at me. "I always thought you were behind me," she said. I didn't respond immediately, because the truth was I never wanted to be ahead of her. I just wanted to be respected. "I was never competing with you, Vanessa," I said. "I was building a life that made me happy." She looked around the room again. The beautiful home she once thought was impossible for me was now standing right in front of her. "I guess I spent so much time trying to prove I was better that I never noticed what you were creating." Her words were honest. And for the first time, I saw my sister not as my rival, but as someone who had been chasing approval too. That day taught me something important. Real success isn't about making other people feel small. It's about becoming someone you're proud to be. Before they left, I had one more thing to show them. Something that would change how they saw my success forever. Before my family left that day, I asked them to follow me to the room at the back of the house. It was my favorite place. Not because it was the biggest room or the most expensive, because it represented everything I believed in. Inside were shelves filled with renovation plans, design sketches, and photographs of families standing in front of homes I had helped transform. My mother looked at the pictures carefully. "Who are all these people?" she asked. I smiled. "They're clients, but they're also the reason I do what I do." I explained that over the past year, I had started a small program where I helped first-time homeowners learn affordable renovation skills. Many people believed owning a beautiful home was impossible because they couldn't afford expensive contractors or luxury upgrades. I wanted to show them that creativity, patience, and hard work could change everything. My house wasn't just a place to live. It was proof that dreams didn't always have to start with a huge amount of money. Sometimes they started with one decision to believe in yourself. My father looked around the room and smiled. "I think we misunderstood what success really means," he said. My mother walked over and hugged me. "I'm proud of you, Claire." And this time I believed her. Vanessa stood near the doorway, quiet but thoughtful. Before leaving, she turned to me. "I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't enough." I nodded, because that apology mattered. Not because it erased the past, but because it showed that people can learn when they finally see the truth. For years, my family measured success by what could be seen from the outside. But I learned something different. The greatest victory isn't proving people wrong. It's building a life that makes you happy, even when nobody believes you can.